Hey everybody, I've taken a couple weeks off just to focus on my own practice to not get too far ahead of myself. Part of what I've learned in my practice over the past decade or so is that it's very easy to lose balance. We get caught up in a certain thought, we get caught up in a certain feeling, we get caught up in a certain story. Such and such a person is hurting us. Such and such a thing is happening. We get caught up in the narrative of our life, and it takes us out of balance. So the past couple of weeks, what I've been really focusing on is just simply noticing where my mind is taking me. Noticing how many things in my day-to-day life are capable of commanding my attention, and how easily the mind and body reacts and responds to those things out of force of habit, and how quickly I can get lost in a negative thought pattern or a negative feeling pattern without even wanting to do that. So for me, part of my practice has been to progressively take responsibility for where I put my attention and what I choose to do with that attention. And for me, something I've learned over time is this thing we call meditation, which is nothing more than letting go, learning to notice and observe, learning to be the witness to what's going on in the mind and body, learning to observe it, to feel it, to sense it, to notice it, without necessarily reacting to it or responding to it or acting it out. What most people don't know is that if you learn to notice what's happening in your mind and body without necessarily acting it out or reacting to it, it actually tends to quiet down in a very rapid period of time. People talk about changing habits. Habits are neurological patterns that we build over time by selective attention, selective behavior. Pretty soon we're acting out response patterns that we don't even need to be acting out. We learn them under stressful situations like combat or in the context of a negative relationship or a negative job or just daily survival in life. We forget we're creatures surviving on this planet. So we develop habits and patterns that are designed to help us survive, but they become things that get in the way of living honestly and fully in this present moment, which is really where freedom is. So part of what I've been focusing on the past couple weeks is taking more responsibility for my habits and my patterns and the things that I do that are not very good for me or not very good for other people around me. That requires me to slow down and to practice something other than habit, to practice something other than automatic reaction. Anytime we have a thought or a sensation in the body, we tend to automatically react to it through the habits and patterns and stories that we've been telling ourselves our whole life. And it's our automatic reaction to the sensation in the body that we might call anxiety, which is actually a form of fear. It's our automatic reaction to, oh, they did this to me, or this was done to me, or why does this keep happening to me? Why can't I get a break? What's wrong with me? I'm not good enough. All of these stories, these are things that we have learned and practiced, and it's our selective attention and selective responding that tends to perpetuate those negative patterns. How do you stop that? You learn to notice it and observe it without acting it out. That requires you to be loving and compassionate to yourself in the moment, to be accepting of what's happening without reacting or judging. Sometimes that's really painful because the habituated response of the mind and body that we tend to call the ego is so good at saying, please, please let me act this out. This is who we are. We have to react. We have to fight. We have to stand our ground. They did me wrong. I have to stand my ground. So I find myself in any given day constantly bringing my attention back to my breath, constantly allowing myself to observe and notice and to let go of the need to act out the stories I'm telling myself. Sometimes that can be really, really hard because there are a lot of assholes out there who want to command our attention, who want us to act and react to them. Because what? They're just projecting their stuff. They're just acting out their story automatically. Sometimes I'm an asshole and I react and act out automatically, and I send that negative pulse out to others. So I need to take responsibility for that. Otherwise, I get thrown out of balance. We get thrown out of balance so easily by allowing our mind to be taken over. There's just so many things in our world that are constantly trying to take our attention away, constantly trying to command our attention and make our mind and body sort of be co-opted by this system out there that is trying to profit off of us. The more we feed into it, the more we buy into it, the more we selectively attend to it, the less we're actually living in the presence of this moment, and the less free we truly are. So all I want to leave you with this morning is, how are you practicing? What are you practicing? And recognize that you can refine your practice down to noticing the sensation of the body, learning to observe it, learning to read it, realizing you don't have to act it out. You don't have to tell these stories that were passed on to you through generational trauma, through systemic trauma, through your friends and families in your neighborhoods. You don't have to act out the bad habits and patterns that you inherited. You can learn to refine this machine through practice. You can learn how to be calm and peaceful even while experiencing intense emotion. You can notice it and observe it. You don't need to act it out. You don't need to tell a story. You don't need to tell that victim story. What's the result? More peace, more calm. You create peace and calm within. You choose to resonate from a place of love within. You love from the inside out. And that becomes what you create in the world. If you create from a place of anger, that's all you're doing is you're playing that game. You're reinforcing it. You create from a place of hate, you're reinforcing that dynamic with you and another person or other people. You are what you practice. And we can refine our practice down to simply the pulse that we feel in the body in the moment. We can notice it and observe it, and it doesn't have to become anything more than that. And you can choose to focus your attention and allow your practice to be guided by your value, by your ethics, by your love, by what you choose in your life. That's where your true freedom is. That is where your true freedom is. So to a large extent, you are what you practice. And a lot of people don't realize that anger is a practice. Anxiety is a practice. Hate is a practice. Fear is a practice. Love is also a practice. And when we remove our attachment to all of these hurtful, hateful, negative things that we have been taught and that we have inherited and that we've learned to act out of self-preservation, at least in my experience, it turns out what's left is just a desire to be of service to others, a desire to be in love, to live in love, to speak from love, to act from love, to create from love. And don't any of you out there tell yourselves that you're not good at something, that you're not good at meditation, that you're not good at quieting your mind. Of course you're not, because you've been practicing a certain way. It requires a choice and a willingness to engage in some sort of daily practice. And it starts by paying attention to your breath and putting your attention in this moment and noticing the sensations of the mind and body and recognizing you don't have to act them out. You don't have to do what your parents taught you if it was hurtful. You don't need to do what your culture has taught you if it was hurtful. A lot of us have learned and acted out a lot of really bad, poor, negative, hurtful patterns and habits from our culture, from our families, just from the force of habit. So you take your power back by taking your attention back and by choosing to practice in a certain way and creating in a certain way. Take care out there today, everybody. I'm going to go for a walk. Bye-bye.